From his extremely eccentric expressions and design, to his widely memorable fighting style and abilities, there is no denying of Hisoka Morrow's presence in anime/manga culture. Despite his popularity, his character has been put under a horrible stigma that doesn't make any sort of sense within the story. The notion that Hisoka is a pedophile has no substantial evidence to justify it, and with this video I plan to explain exactly who Hisoka is and why he acts the way he does. From where he was first shown in Chapter 5, we see the main themes of what Hisoka represents. He's depicted as a seasoned serial killer with a bit of showmanship to boot, violently making the arms of an unnamed applicant disappear as some sort of twisted party trick. This introduction is vital to his character, as everything he does in the story will end up pointing back towards his occupation of being a serial killer magician. While his motives aren't as explicitly stated, they are still quite straightforward. The main reason as to why Hisoka does what he does is to satisfy his boredom, and this is first shown in the second phase of the Hunter exam, where he first meets Kurapika, Leorio, and Gon. He comes by playing a self-proclaimed examiner, which he couldn't hold himself off from doing, because in his words, the first phase was boring. To Hisoka, being an examiner means to assess the strength and potential of the examinees, and pass his own version of judgment on the ones who he feels is or isn't capable of passing. In this case, he passes Gon and Leorio after just failing a group of contestants prior. The reasoning for Gon and Leorio's passing is stated multiple times to be related to their high potential, and that killing them at the moment would have been too soon. What this means is that Hisoka wants his future opponents to be at their best, so that defeating them will be much more fulfilling for him. Additionally, there is another case in which his motive to satisfy some sort of boredom is addressed within the Hunter exam. His encounter with Goes, specifically neglecting to fight against them, is the clearest show of Hisoka's fighting motives. He outright states that he doesn't feel like fighting Goes because of his fatal injuries, and that he typically fights those he deems worthy, and once again states that it would be a shame to kill certain people too soon. Skipping ahead to the first Gon fight, Hisoka spares him for a similar reason, stating that it suits him to let Gon live until he becomes a worthy opponent. Another moment where this sentiment is shown is at the end of the Hunter exam, whereas Hisoka warns Illumi to leave Gon alone, for he again considers Gon an unripe fruit he must wait for to ripen. This is repeated further and furthermore in the manga throughout many other instances of him being shown. In York New, Greed Island, the election arc, while this may seem like reiteration, and it is, I have to get across that this has always been Hisoka's character from start to finish, and while a few branches of his ideology have changed due to certain events in the manga, the core remains the same. He doesn't want to fight anyone who isn't at their strongest, nor anyone who won't be able to give him a good challenge. It's also worth stating that Hisoka is a big troll. This is a lot more obvious as we've seen him lying and fooling around messing with people all throughout the series. Even in important moments like his fight with Gon at Heaven's Arena, and his fight with Goto during the election arc, he played tricks on them to bring a more stylish end to a fight he had already won. Now that we understand who Hisoka is, it is time for the debunking of scenes being used to argue his sexual attraction. The scene where Hisoka orgasms while fighting Gon is widely misinterpreted. Pay special attention to what Hisoka is saying while he's in ecstasy. He specifies that he wants to demolish Gon, and states once again that he needs to wait until Gon is strong enough to be properly defeated the way Hisoka wants to do so. Nothing has necessarily changed here, despite his extreme reaction due to literal sexual frustration of not being able to go all out against an opponent worthwhile, as to which he ends up being able to do later on in the manga. I would like to point out that Hisoka shows a sexual attraction to the brilliance of Chrollo in York New City in anticipation of killing Chrollo. With Gon and Chrollo, he takes note of traits that would aid one in combat, like fighting spirit and brilliance. Now, on to Greed Island. While the presentation of his ideals are very suspect to say the least, he spoke of Gon and Killua the same way. And as for the infamous panel of him staring, he is literally just trolling them, as you can see him giggling in the panel after. The reason why he came to tag along with Gon and Killua in the first place was because he was bored, as usual. The next suspect moment took place in the election arc, where Hisoka apparently asked Illumi if he could Killua. This is by far the weakest argument because quite literally the page after saying this, it is shown that Hisoka was once again trolling, baiting Illumi into letting out a massive amount of bloodlust to alert Killua that he's being trailed. Regardless of what he said, it wouldn't have mattered because it was a bait anyway. It doesn't mean he actually wants to do those things. Now for all those wondering, if Hisoka isn't a pedophile, why put all these sexual innuendo? The simple answer is that what grants him sexual pleasure is the act of fighting and killing a worthy opponent in itself. People like to ignore the fact that Hisoka also had an orgasmic release during the Chrollo fight, whereas his sexual fantasy had finally come true and no sex was involved. Killing someone is his sex, and the circumstances around the battle are foreplay. Brackley here. I hope this video made everything clear for y'all when it comes to Hisoka. This is my first video I ever made, so if you guys have any feedback or constructive criticism, please let me know, as I want to do this more in the future. Special thanks to Truther for inspiring me to make this video, and I thank each and every one of y'all for making it this far into it. I hope y'all have a wonderful day and stay as strong as you can be. I think that's everything I wanted to say, so Brackley out.